You can invite all these people here.
Me? Oh, Lucy.
Good afternoon. I apologize for being just a little bit late. I will call to order the May 11th Salina City Commission meeting. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mayor Larson.
Here.
Commissioner Angel. Here. Commissioner Arbke.
Here.
Commissioner Jennings.
Here.
Commissioner Peck.
Here.
At this time, if you'll rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Okay, at this time, we have the Citizens Forum. This is where anyone from the general public can come up and speak on any topic not on today's agenda. If anybody wishes to comment on anything, please come forward. State your name and address. Seeing none, we will move on to awards and proclamations.
Item 4.1, the week of May 10th through the 16th, 2009 as National Police Week and the day of May 15th, 2009 as Peace Officer Memorial Day in the City of Salina. Lieutenant Sean Morton will read the proclamation.
Whereas the Congress and the President of the United States has designated May 15th as Police Officers Memorial Day and the week in which May 15th falls as National Police Week. And whereas law enforcement officers play an important role in safeguarding the rights, freedoms, safety, and security of the citizens of our community. And whereas the City of Salina desires to honor the valor, dedication, service, and sacrifice of its own peace officers, 4 of whom have who have been killed in the line of duty, and whereas it is known that on an average, every 53 hours, a law enforcement officer is killed in the line of duty somewhere in America, and 363 officers are assaulted, our community joins with other cities and towns to honor all peace officers everywhere, and I, Lucy Larson, Mayor of the City of Salina, do hereby proclaim the week of May 10th to May 16th, 2009 to be Police Week, and call upon all citizens in this community to especially honor and show our sincere appreciation for the police officers of the city by deed, remark, and attitude. I call upon all our citizens to make every effort to express their thanks to our officers who make it possible for us to leave our homes and families in safety each day and to return to our homes knowing they are protected by officers willing to sacrifice the lives if necessary to guard our loved ones, property, and government against all who would violate the law.
Thank you, Lieutenant. Do you have any functions or special events planned for the week?
Yes, we have our annual Law Enforcement Memorial Service on Friday, May 15th, 8 a.m. at Jerry Ivy Park. And we would like to invite everybody to come out to that. And I think you will be doing the welcome that day.
Planning on it. It'll
Thank
be
you.
my honor. Thank you for asking me. I have a signed proclamation for you.
Item 4.2, the week of May 19th or May 7th through the 17th, 2009 as Travel and Tourism Week in the City of Salina. Sylvia Rice, Visit Salina Director, will read the proclamation.
Mayor Larson, City Commissioners. Whereas travel to and within the United States provides significant economic benefits for the nation. Whereas the travel industry ranks as the 5th largest employer in the United States and among the top 10 industries of 49 states, including the District of Columbia, when measured by employment. Whereas the Kansas Department of Commerce Travel and Tourism Division reports that in 2006, the total impact of travel and tourism in Kansas exceeded $5.4 billion. More than 128,000 jobs were created by travel and tourism activity, comprising 9.5% of total employment in the state, ranking tourism as the 3rd largest private sector employer in Kansas. Travel and tourism in Kansas generated $1.7 billion in federal, state, and local taxes. And travel and tourism activity generated more than $700 million in north central Kansas, including an estimated $200 million in the Saline County area. Whereas more than $20 million in simple room revenue is generated annually at Salina lodging facilities. Whereas travel and tourism generates 2,500 jobs at lodging facilities, attractions, event venues, restaurants, retail shops, and tourism service businesses in the Salina area. Whereas travel contributes to personal growth, health, professional advancement, education, cultural understanding, and the enhancement of America's image around the world. Whereas meetings, events, and incentive travel are core business functions that help companies to strengthen business relationships, align and educate employees and customers, and reward business performance. And whereas travel can serve as a catalyst to help move the national economy forward. Now, therefore, I, Lucy Larson, Mayor of Salina, do hereby proclaim May 9th through the 17th, 2009, as Travel and Tourism Week in Salina, Kansas, and urge the citizens of Salina to discover great American traditions, travel Kansas, and support tourism in Salina.
For those that don't know, that these kind of things are near and dear to my heart. Do you have any activities or functions planned for the week?
Actually, we began our celebration locally last Friday with an open house for frontline employees of our hotels, restaurants, and attractions, during which time we shared information about things to see and do in Salina, and they participated in games and winning prizes. We're also conducting a hunt for Salina treasures throughout the summer. We unveiled that first to some of those frontline employees to kind of give them a bit of a heads up, and that will be going public on our website shortly. And we're also beginning familiarization tours for our frontline employees as early as next week to give them a hands-on view of what there is to do in Salina. And beginning this week, we'll be secret shopping our hotels and our attractions and our restaurants to seek out great examples of visitor service and rewarding those frontline employees on the spot.
And because we have so many things happening in Salina and we urge people to come here, do you have requests for any volunteers or anything coming up with your summer programs? Softball,
Almost as if
baseball?
I cued you.
Yep, I can read your mind.
Absolutely. We have lots and lots of volunteer opportunities available. Most right on the horizon. We've got soccer, baseball, and softball coming up, and we have those kinds of opportunities all summer. It's going to be a busy summer for us.
So people just need to call you to volunteer?
Absolutely. Call the chamber.
Okay. I have a signed proclamation for you. Okay, moving right along with public hearings and items scheduled for a certain time.
Item 5.1, public hearing on 2008 special assessments projects. Sub-item 5.1A, resolution number 096622, amending the advisability and authorization resolution for the Eagle Crest Twin Homes Addition project. Sub-item 5.1B, first reading ordinance number 09-10499, levying special assessments.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to open the public hearing. And is Mr. Stack? Oh, I was looking for you out there. Hi.
Hello.
Okay,
I'm sitting in the hot seat today.
evidently.
This is trying to amend a resolution that was passed in December of 2007. 2 weeks ago, as you're aware, we started the bond issuance for assessments, and you approved the calendar, and the final costs were certified a couple weeks ago. The public hearing notices were sent out, and upon the receipt of these notices, one property owner questioned us on the assessment. And rightly so, she found an error in the property description for Eagle Crest Twin Homes, and as well as a kind of an interesting situation where there was a half a street built in front of their house. So we assessed for about half of the street in 1999 approximately was when the first assessment went through. So there were two problems basically that occurred, and so we had to correct those with a resolution. This is the amended resolution. However, we are still working out the details of this, and this resolution, we do not want to, we want to postpone this till next week, because after talking with the property owner and bond counsel, there's a lot of options that we have to try and get this amended, and I'm not sure this is, we're not going to proceed with this one as yet. I guess just a little more background. In your packet, you'll see a map, color map, just kind of shows, I guess I'll go through why the error occurred, or how we believe it occurred anyway. In 1999, there was a resolution to build Golden Eagle Estates Edition, and there are quite a few different plats that were put together, and there are 5 actually on this page. And so there was edition number 1, the regular edition, number 3, and there was an amended Eagle Crest later in the process. So I guess in defense of the complications that were in here, there was, and then in 1999 they also built half a street that was amended later. Actually, after they passed the initial resolution, just to service 2 lots, just so they could get the driveways in. So it's a complicated process, and bottom line is this one property was misdescribed, so they were not notified ahead of time, and as well as they were assessed partially before, so there's no reason to assess them for that portion again. So we're still working out the details of that, and I guess staff's recommendation is to postpone this till next week.
Mayor, if I may add to that just a little bit, bond counsel, in speaking with bond counsel, their suggested course of action is we go ahead and conduct the public hearing today. We extend that public hearing to May 18th, and then we take up the first reading, we take up the resolution amending the Eagle Crest Twin Homes Addition project May 18th, and we do the first and second reading of the ordinance levying the special assessments on May 18th. So from the public perspective, those that have received notice have an opportunity to speak at the public hearing today. They'd have an additional opportunity to speak next week, and then we can take up all the items necessary to respond to this legal description error as part of the action next week.
Okay, so to clarify that, we are just postponing that, but since I've opened the public hearing, we will allow anyone from the public or anyone that wishes to speak on this at this time.
Correct.
That's correct.
Okay. Is there anyone that wishes to comment on this? Public comment. If not, I need action to postpone it. Or do I close the public hearing?
If I may, Mayor, I think the thing you want to be sure to do in relation to the public hearing is to extend it to next week. We don't want to close it. We just want to carry it over till next week.
And that requires a motion?
That would be best, I think.
Okay.
Yes.
Mayor, I'd move that we postpone this resolution number 09-6622 until next week and extend the public hearing until that time as well.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to extend resolution number 096622 and the public hearing until next week, May 18th. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion passes. So we've extended that until May 18th.
I think we need to move that.
Do we also extend sub-item 5.1B as well? Since they go kind of hand in hand?
That's my understanding as well, Mayor, that would be postponed
As well.
right, for consideration.
Mayor, I move that
Next Monday,
we
the 8th.
postpone ordinance number 09-10499 until May 18th, 2009.
Second.
Moved and seconded to also postpone sub-item 5.1B, ordinance number 09-10499, until next week, May 18th. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion passes 5-0. We'll move on to the consent agenda.
Item 6.1, approve the minutes of May 4th, 2009. Item 6.2, approve the sole purchase of a West Tech burn room installation system from fire facilities in the amount of $35,000.
I would like to pull 6.2 as I had more than just one or two questions. So I will just need a motion to approve the minutes.
Mayor, I move that we approve the minutes from the May 4th, 2009 commission meeting.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Regarding item number 6.2, does that become an agenda item then for discussion?
You can go ahead and have your discussion and then act on it.
Okay. Is Chief Mulligan here?
Yes, Mayor, is there any questions I can answer for you on the...
Well, yes. First of all, when I kind of did the math a little bit on this, I realized that while it was taking you every year to replace these panels, at the cost of what this room is going to be, it's going to take you about 9.5 years roughly to make for that to break even. The current original burn room, how old is it and when was it installed? I mean, how long have we had that? How long have we been replacing these panels?
It was installed before I became the chief. It was, Jason, do you remember when that was built, when they built the training facility?
I'm going to take a stab at it. I think it was built in the mid-90s,
Okay.
mid to late 90s. It's been in place for some time.
So since about that time, are you replacing about 10 to 12 of these panels?
Yes.
Okay.
Depending upon how much we use it, the more we use it, the more recruit classes we have, the more training we have. We went through a series of training classes a while back involving our RIT, our rescue team training, and used it quite extensively. And so, depending upon our usage, we can use more panels, fewer panels, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. So to go ahead and replace it then at this cost of $35,000, I noticed also on the on some of these more detailed specs that it did not include the window shutters or the burn room door. Window shutters don't sound like they'd be that expensive, but a burn room door does. How much more does that?
Well, we have a burn room door.
So that would already...
Right, it's already there.
Okay.
The shutters are there, the door is there.
So you're not replacing them?
No, what
Okay,
this
it's
is...
just the...
This insulation package is just insulating the fire from the outside facility. You know, when you drive past it, it's a metal building from the outside.
Right,
And all
and
of
I've
these
seen it.
insulation panels protect the metal on the outside from the temperatures inside, which will reach 800 to 1,000 degrees at times. And so that's why they deteriorate rather rapidly. These panels here, if you don't use it very much, it's okay, but we have found, and Chief Hemphill, who's our chief of training, says, we're replacing too many of them every year. It takes too much time to do it. We have downtime with it, and so it's just more cost efficient for us to replace those interior panels with a panel that would last 10 to 15 years.
And, well, my hesitation on all this is because I realize as we've been discussing a lot of budget items, not that $35,000 isn't a lot of money, but when I did the math and realized that you're replacing them right now 10 to 12 a year, it's going to take almost 10 years before we actually, see our investment. So, I don't know if it's just feasible right now to continue the maintenance on a yearly basis until we can just have a little bit more.
I certainly understand
jar.
that. I understand that, and the only thing I would say is that when these panels become degraded, it exposes the building on the inside to higher heat levels and things. And we may be degrading our building. The longer we carry this on, we might be degrading our building. And these panels here, that's part of the reason behind the installation costs. These are bolt-on panels, and they really don't know exactly the extent of the damage on the installation things, so they unbolt the old panels and they bolt the new panels in place as far as what the actual wear and tear on the inside of it is. So it could come in a little bit less than that on the installation cost, but it's hard to tell.
And how many times, if you just had to give me a number, are you actually using this in a year's time?
Oh, we're probably using it, well, we've got 3 shifts. We've got 3 shifts, and we've got 4 stations. And when we're running drill cycles and things of that nature, we'll use it 10 to 12 times per drill cycle on 3 and 4 man crews and things of that nature, not including outside training, which is bringing in people from when we have recruit training and things like that. We hire recruits. In fact, we're looking at hiring 2 new recruits here shortly. We'll be using it during that time. So, during a given year, we could use it, 30, 40 times pretty easy if we needed to.
Per year.
Right.
Okay. Okay. Do any other commissioners have questions regarding this?
Chief or Mr. Gage, I don't know if either of you know if this is the type of facility or training that might be available for us to use out at the Joint Training Center that the General Steen talked about last week.
Yeah, the training center that he referred to, I don't believe that they're going to have this type of facility. I haven't heard that, but what they have, right now they're just starting construction, so they currently don't have a facility like this. But I don't believe they're going to have a burn room. I may be wrong, but I just haven't heard that yet.
No, that's right, Jason. They've told us they have no intention of having burn facilities there, that's more of a fire department function and more specific to us, and they're not going to have that there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is this cost, the $300 per panel, is that a panel cost and then installation, or is that just if you had 2 panels, it'd cost $600 for them to come in and install it?
Well, as far as I know from Chief Hemphill, that's the cost of panel replacement. I would assume that includes
The labor.
The labor included with it.
Chief, I know you mentioned in here 10 to 12 per year, but that's on average. I presume we don't use every room exactly the same, so you may have certain rooms in a facility that get much more use than other rooms.
Well, this is just one room. This is basically, you have a door and an outer entry and then an interior room, and so it's all kind of one thing. That's what it is.
How can you tell when your panels are getting worn to the point that if you continue to use the room and burn in the room, that you could actually burn through and create damage?
Oh,
to
they
the
actually
structure?
they actually break. You can see the damage to them.
So the panels that we're replacing in this room are panels that are broken?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So I understood that. Okay. Okay. Any other questions of commissioners?
Is this an ongoing issue, or is this something that even when we had it brand new, we were having to replace panels?
I think it was one of those things that when it was originally put in, they probably thought it would last longer than what they actually do as far as these panels, replacing them every year, and probably that's probably an upgrade that we probably could have selected when the thing was built. When we built it, we probably could have opted for the upgrade to the better, longer lasting panels, and whether it was a cost containment thing back then or what, they chose not to do that. And this agenda item really is for a long-term fix to this. We won't come back every year, and those prices escalate over the years and things of that nature. So it's going to go up over time, even replacing the $3,000 a year. So I think Chief Hemphill, when he looked at the facility, and that's his responsibility, thought that it was the best value for the city, that given the amount of use, given the amount of abuse it takes, over a number of years, we would be well served to do this. And we probably should have done it back when we built the facility.
And they have a 15-year warranty with this installation system.
Yes.
And do you know, is this causing a scheduling nightmare? I hear that you could have 1 a week or 2 a week, and if you find out that the panels are shot when you're done using it because you can see the breakage in it, is it causing you to shift schedules and change some things around, and is it a management nightmare?
Oh, I wouldn't say it's a nightmare. I think it causes Chief Hemphill some problems in scheduling and things of that nature, but I think he does a good job trying to schedule around it. I think from my standpoint, it would serve me real well if he could just carry on training without having to worry about replacing panels and what kind of condition they're in and that sort of stuff. So for a 15-year use period, it seems to me like a pretty good use of money, but you may feel differently.
Any other questions? Thank you. I'll open up to public comment.
Thank you.
If not, I'll bring it back to the commission for action.
Mayor, I'd move that we approve the West Tech burn room installation system, including installation costs, in the amount of $35,000.
I'll second that, and I think I'll add a little comment here. I think safety is probably the most important thing that we can have when we're fighting fires, and if we can train our firemen to be safe with this installation, that's money well spent.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the West Tech burn installation system, including installation costs in the amount of $35,000. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 5-0. Development business.
Item 7.1, Resolution Number 096623, authorizing the mayor to execute a license agreement with Norman J. Carlin and Marilyn A. Carlin to allow 5 awning structures to extend over the public sidewalk in front of a building located at 305 North Santa Fe Avenue and 104 West Elm Street.
Mr. Andrew?
Mayor and Commissioners, this request comes from Norman and Marilyn Carlin, and they own a building that's located at the northwest corner of Santa Fe and Elm Street, which they're in the process of updating and renovating for tenants. We have a situation in Salina where we do have a number of buildings that are built at the front property line, meaning that the only room in front of the building is the public way where we have public sidewalks, and the only location in the city where you can do that by right is in the downtown core area where awnings and canopies can extend over the sidewalk. This particular property is outside the central business district, and they'd like to erect 5 awnings that would extend over the right-of-way about 5 feet, and they'd be located about 7 feet above the sidewalk. And so this agreement has been structured to spell out the terms and conditions under which those improvements could be extended into and over the Elm and Santa Fe right-of-way. And we've attached a drawing that shows the location of the building and the location of those planned for awnings. There should be no financial impact on the city as a result of this agreement, and our recommendation would be to approve the attached resolution, which authorizes the mayor to execute a license agreement with Norman and Marilyn Carlin, who own that building, to allow these to extend over the public sidewalk. I'd be happy to address any questions.
Questions of Mr. Andrew? Public comment? If not, I'll bring it back to the commission for action.
Mayor, I move that we approve resolution number 09-6623, authorizing you to execute a license agreement with Norman J. Carlin and Marilyn A. Carlin to allow 5 awning structures to extend over the public sidewalk in front of the building they own at 305 North Santa Fe Avenue through 104 West Elm Street.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt resolution number 096623, authorizing the mayor to execute a license agreement for 5 awning structures over the public sidewalk at 305 North Santa Fe through 104 West Elm Street. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 5-0. Administration.
Item 8.1, first reading ordinance number 09-10498, adding section 38-49 to Article 3 of Chapter 38 of the Salina Code pertaining to temporarily designate and reserve parking places on public streets within the corporate limits of Salina for persons with a disability.
Chief Hill.
Mayor and Commissioners, there are venues within the city, such as the Stiefel Theater, that rely on public parking for their patrons during events. And while the public parking for persons with disability, normally the spaces, stalls allowed would normally be adequate, during special events, sometimes we find that they're not. And that the proposed ordinance before you would provide the city manager with the authority to temporarily designate, mark, and reserve additional parking on public streets for persons with a disability, and this just would be done on an as-needed basis.
Questions of Chief Hill?
Would this be for a specific time, like 8 hours or 24 hours before the event? Or?
Commissioner, it would be for the time of the event, or basically the venue operator would make application to the city manager. We'd look at the duration of the event, and then it could be for the specific time period of the event.
Thank you.
And you used the Stiefel Theater as an example, but is it open to anywhere in Salina, or were you just mainly, I mean, I realize that that's a downtown venue, but...
The Stiefel comes to mind because of all the activities and special events that you have there, but this would be applicable to any place in the city. And by having this, we would be able to let the venue operators know that if you have a special event that requires additional off-street or on-street parking for persons with disability, you can make application to the city manager.
That was going to be my next question, is is there some criteria that has to be met, an application that needs to be filled out?
We have not really put the meat on the bones yet.
Okay.
But that's what we anticipate, that we would inform venue operators and make it public, certainly by this also, and then there'd be a specific procedure whereby, and it wouldn't be complicated, where there could be a justification request made from the city manager, and he could authorize that. We've also talked about, say for example, like the Stiefel, if they have events that they know months in advance, and if they would need that, the manager could give them approval, kind of a blanket approval during this date, and this date.
Well, and now that you mention the Stiefel, and that this whole handicap situation or disability situation is near and dear to my heart, in Salina it's very difficult. All the ramps are at the corner. So even if you designated certain spots along the street for handicap, they still have to, especially if they're in a scooter or in a wheelchair, they still have to go on the street, clear down to the corner to come up on the ramp, unless there's someone there assisting them that will, bump up the wheelchair up the curb. And using the Stiefel as an example, the side or the curb there on the south side of the Stiefel is almost as high as I am tall. So that is really tricky right there. And you do have to go all the way to the corner and then come up the ramp. Will it be like temporary signage then that says that
Yes,
this
ma'am.
is designated for
Yes.
persons with disabilities?
And we have the authority under the STO, either the traffic engineer or I do, to designate on a temporary or emergency basis. We felt this would be better for public knowledge, and then we could do it systematically and not on an emergency or temporary basis.
But it will be clear to the general public, because we're so used to parking where we're used to parking that as soon as an event like that happens and those spots are going to be designated for persons with disability, I can already see people saying, well, I didn't know, that wasn't marked, I got a citation.
We will have proper signage.
Okay, all right. Just troubleshooting ahead of time.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Thank you, Mayor.
If not, I'll open it up to public comment. Seeing that there is none, I'll bring it back to the commission for action.
Mayor, I'd move we approve ordinance number 09-10498 on first reading.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt ordinance number 09-10498 on first reading. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those approved, same sign. Motion passes 5-0.
Item 8.2, consider submittal of a request to the Kansas Department of Commerce for Neighborhood Stabilization Program funds designed to help cities address home foreclosure and abandonment by offering grant funds to purchase and rehabilitate foreclosed homes.
Ms. Urban?
Mayor Larson and Commissioners, there was an opportunity that presented itself without much anticipated warning about a week ago, and that is there is some neighborhood stabilization stimulus package funds available through the Kansas Department of Commerce for the purpose of housing rehab, which would be purchasing properties that have been foreclosed through the entire foreclosure process, injecting some grant funds to rehabilitate those properties, and then to turn those properties back for use to low to moderate income families and individuals. There is also enough money in that program, and it's an allowed activity to provide for demolition of properties to clear the way for redevelopment of that same property, also to benefit low to moderate income individuals. And you have a sort of a complicated blue sheet on your desks, and I'm sure that there may be some questions, so that is it in a nutshell.
Questions of staff?
I do have one. It said it was for Saline County, and I was wondering what the county was going to do with this grant money, since it's both for the county and the city to look at.
The funds were initially offered to the county. The county did not respond affirmatively to the offer, and the money was originally offered to all counties in Kansas that qualified, and I believe there were 21 counties that qualified. We were 13th on the list. It happened that Saline County did not accept those funds. There is a provision in the regulations that allows the funds then to be passed to the city for acceptance if we so desire.
I noticed also in reading this that it was going to take significant time of our staff to complete all the required paperwork to have this grant, and then also the paperwork that's going to be involved in completing the grant process. What kind of time are we looking at?
The staff time involved is mainly in vetting the properties for purchase, and we want to make sure that we don't tell the commission that this property is eligible and should fit in the guidelines or in the requirements, and then it turn out that it is not a good property. So there is some background research that would be required, both from a professional legal aspect and also on the part of the city attorney, to make sure we don't lead the commission into a pathway you don't want to go. And then so far as hands-on activities, we have a housing rehabilitation specialist on staff. His time would be needed to inspect the properties, develop a scope of work in cooperation with the lead-safe work practices and other federal guidelines needed to rehabilitate the properties. So writing the scopes of work correctly after inspecting, and then inspecting the work in progress, would be mainly the staff involvement. Paperwork principally would be completed by the North Central Regional Planning Commission staff.
Well, and I'm sorry. My question on that is, the way I understand it, are we like the landlords? Is the city like the landlords of these homes? And if they sell, if I read this correctly, if they sell within a 15-year timeline, the money has to go back to is it the Kansas Department of Commerce? But what happens after 15 years?
After 15 years, whoever owns the property at the end then determines what happens to it, whether it's sold or not. But let's back up for a second. Okay. Initially, the city would own the property. I, as a staff person, could not in good conscience, and I don't think our legal staff would recommend it either, purchasing a property that is occupied. There are just too many issues involved. And so these properties are already vacant. The property is purchased on behalf of the city gains title to it. Grant funds are used both to complete the purchase and to do the rehabilitation. Drawdowns happen during that cycle. Then the property rehabilitation activity is finalized. The state approves it. All the drawdowns are complete. Then the property title is, at that point in the city, it has to be determined then whether the city wants to A, hold the property, sell the property, or pass the property to another qualified entity. And then once that entity receives it, if it's passed along, that entity decides whether they want to sell it or to rent it to a qualified tenant. And the effort that happens then is to make sure that the people who occupy that property or receive the property are low to moderate income. And that takes a process of an application, making sure that their income is what they say it is, and so on.
So we'd be in the business of flipping houses.
That was my next question. That's what it's
initially, yes, somewhat. These are generally going to be properties that might not appeal to investor. The limit is $25,000 investment for an individual rehabilitation project. So, there are lots of unknowns.
Where are we getting the money to fix these houses?
That's part of the grant. So the grant funds allow.
Must stay within that scope of.
Must stay within that scope. Don't want to go outside of $25,000 because then some different regulations for lead hazard come into play. So they all stay under $25,000.
Commissioners, there are a lot of decisions when you look at this and the way the funds are allocated. There are a lot of little decision points that you have to meet. That's one issue. We talked about lead. Lead's an issue. I mean, if you keep it under, then you're not abating the lead. Well, don't you want the house to be safe? That's a question. And if there is a lead hazard, you're into that conundrum a little bit as well. The other thing is there's some particular legal aspects of transfer of the ownership of property that are being foreclosed upon, or properties that are being foreclosed upon. That in itself has a few pitfalls and major decisions too, and some legal work that has to be done. That's why when you look at the staff recommendation, at first you look at this and you say, hey, great, there's money coming down and we can do these great things with it, but first we're only limited to 3 houses on rehab and 2 demolitions, so 5 properties total out of all of this. And so when you look at the dollars and the time commitment for the number, there's quite a bit to it, and I'm not sure that given everything else we want to do in the community to try to beautify it and make it look better, I'm not sure if this is the best use of our time. And that's why we put in there, if this is something that you'd like to do, we'll work very hard and make it succeed the best way we can, but you probably are taking quite a few resources just for 3 properties in town.
It sounded like a huge Pandora's box.
You might want to know the difference between this and what you might call the run-of-the-mill federal housing rehab program. And the basic difference is property ownership. Anytime we get federal dollars for housing rehab, we have to meet most of these qualifications. Most of the paperwork has to be done. Very, very similar. The big difference is the whole issue of foreclosed properties and not knowing who owns the property or who might be party to the title and so on. And then afterwards, in a regular housing rehab project, we know who the owner is, we know they're income qualified, we know who's going to enjoy the property afterwards, and that's the other unknown in this case.
Well, and forgive my ignorance with this question, but I'm still kind of new here. This doesn't fall somehow under the umbrella of the Housing Authority? They couldn't have taken this on or have the staff to do this?
I don't believe so, the way the program's structured.
It's too...
Correct. The way the federal funds came to us, they came as the eligible recipients were counties or kind of by proxy cities, so the localities. Federal funds generally come with very specific regulations as to who can receive them.
Okay. Okay. Any more questions?
Are there any other cities in Saline County that could use these funds that we've approached or have been approached?
Since Salina is the largest municipality and has established relationships with the Department of Commerce, I don't know that that option had been explored. I do know that it's usually the largest city in the county that would be offered the funds.
Any other questions of the commissioners? If not, I'll open it to public comment. Seeing that there is none, I'll go ahead and bring it back to the commission for action.
Do we need to formally withdraw from this or just take no action, period?
I'll look to the city attorney, but I would imagine that if there's not a motion to enter into this, then it would die for lack of motion, or if there is and no second, die for lack of second, or vote if it comes to that.
I think that's correct. I suppose it'd be helpful to know if there's any expected action at this juncture, the way the matter has been presented to the city.
We have present in the audience a representative from North Central Regional Planning Commission, and she has some more information. Her name is Carol Torkelson.
Thank you. You will need to, in writing, refuse the grant funds from the Department of Commerce. They will then reallocate those to the counties that are participating in the program.
Okay.
So we can just opt to not take any action?
Well, if the requirements are to actually refuse it, your motion, if you don't want to do it, the motion might be a motion to refuse participation in the program.
Okay.
Mayor, I'd move we refuse participation in the program.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to not participate or take action in this program at this time. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 5-0. Any other business? If not, I'll ask for adjournment.
Move we adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor to adjourn, say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. We are adjourned. Thank you.